Good morning to the snowy, wintry North Woods, and good afternoon to other parts of the world. We are going to record this meeting. So if for whatever reason you do not want to be on the recording, I would recommend that you can change your name and turn your camera off. And also, we would like to invite you to be muted while we're sharing stories, and then unmute as you want to contribute. And as you do, please raise your digital Zoom hand. Does everybody here know where the digital Zoom hand is? Does anybody not know where that is? Wave strongly if you don't know where that is. Okay, go with your mouse to the bottom of the Zoom controllers on your screen, and there's a react button, like a heart, tilted heart that says react. When you go on there, there's a raise hand. Okay? So, and why we ask for that is that it's really easy to see that you would like to contribute something with that function, while other ways to signal that may be overlooked in the amount of Zoom screens on the computer. So,
Okay, just a little interjection. We like to see lots of hearts, whether you mean it or not.
and that means this.
Ein ganz anderes Problem.
There, yes, we love it. We love it. Just keep them coming. Forget sincerity. That's not important.
Can you explain how to do this too?
Yes, you go. You also go to the react button.
Yes.
And there's a heart on send with effect. I don't know what the German controls are called, but there's a heart.
Yes. But I don't have that with the flying. I only have this.
Well, that might be a great time to check if your Zoom needs an update or something.
Yeah, thank you.
And what we'd also like to invite you, because we have people from different parts of this globe here, as you come and, when you want to ask a question or bring a contribution, please just say, hi, I'm Iris. I'm from Germany, or zooming in from Germany. And then, we can connect with that. And I think that's it.
There's one more thing. You really want to be recorded here because this is your one chance to get rich and famous. So, yeah, take it. Opportunity's knocking. Okay. We'd like to start with a grounding exercise to help put us into the mood for this experience, this sharing of stories. Everybody, if you get comfortable, sit down, stand, however, just get really comfortable right now.
Just like Dirk.
Yeah, yeah, right. And close your eyes and take a deep, deep breath right down into your belly. Big, full breath, and then just let it exhale. Let gravity take it out. And then take another one. Deep, deep inhale all the way down. And let it out again. And now imagine you are in your favorite place on the mother bosom, wherever that is. It could be the mountain meadow or the seashore or deep in the woods, wherever you feel most comfortable, most at home. Just be there. Take another breath. Ground yourself in this place. Now feel the moss under your feet, or maybe it's the sand on the seashore, or the waves washing up on your feet, or the cool mountain air washing your face. Whatever the sensations are, feel them. Let them bring you fully into the moment, fully into the experience. Now take a deep breath again. What do you smell? Maybe it's the sea air, or the wildflowers in the meadow, or you smelling the deep richness of the pine needles underfoot if you're in the forest. Whatever it is, experience it fully. Take a deep, deep breath. Take it in. Let the breath become you. Let it become your life source. Let your breath become the breath of life. Let's just be in this place and ground ourselves for a moment. Take another deep, rich breath, and then another. Listen. Listen to the sound of the waves, the birds singing in the trees. Just become this place and time. There's no past, there's no future. There's just the beauty of the now. Give yourself permission to be fully there. Okay, now start coming back, but don't leave that place there. Bring it with you. Keep this place in your heart. Keep it in your feelings, your sensations. Keep this groundedness. This is the setting we want for the sharing of these stories that are coming. This is where the stories originated. And this is where we're going to go to hear them. Okay, come on back, open your eyes, join this circle. Bring this richness and beauty with you into this circle. Mm. Ah. We're all organs within this circle, within this organism that we are comprised of. And we're bringing our stories forth to contribute to this great story of life. We're going to start by, first of all, letting you know that this is a sharing of stories. We have some traditional stories we're going to share, and some stories from our life with wolves, and stories from our ancestors. And we're asking you also, if you have stories to share about your relationship with wolf, whether it's in this plane or whether you have a spirit relationship, it doesn't matter. Whatever your relationship is with wolf, that's welcome here as well. This is a storytelling circle. We'd like to start by looking at the title of this time together, Stories from Brother Wolf. Why Brother Wolf? Is this just some romantic attachment? Well, of course, I hope so. It's a lot more than that, though. If it weren't for our relationship with Wolf, we would not be here today. We would not be Homo sapiens, believe it or not. We evolved in a symbiotic relationship with Wolf. When we were proto-humans coming out of the trees and first coming out onto the savanna when we were Australopithecus, we were technically bipedal. We were standing on two legs, However, we were still bent over. We weren't perfectly erect. And our feet still had curved toes so that we could still climb up in the trees to escape danger. So we weren't completely bipedal. And we weren't very fast because of it. We were small. Our uh, the female Australopithecus weighed about 60 pounds, pretty small. It's about 30 kilos. And the males were considerably bigger. There was sexual dimorphism. They weighed about 90 pounds, which I think is about 45 kilos, something like that. We were small. And we were primarily vegetarians, and we were slow. We were slow to move. And we started to move more because we started to eat meat. We were scavengers. The wolves and the other predators would make kills, and we would come in after with the rest of the scavengers and start eating some of the scrap meat. And that was the beginning of our evolution when we started becoming carnivores. Australopithecus, about 90%, 97% plant matter. And we gradually started eating more and more meat. And we started getting more energy. Okay, we started getting more energy from this meat. And that helped our brains to evolve. And we became more social animals. We started following the herds right along with wolf. And that stimulated us to grow bigger and stronger and become more erect. And we patterned our culture after wolves. We learned how to live in close clan. We learned how to coordinate our efforts in the hunt, and we eventually started participating with wolf in the hunt rather than just scavenging off of wolf's kills. We were right there alongside wolf, and that is how dog eventually became domesticated because of our close relationship with wolf. But we'd like to it, before going on with that, it's just a beautiful story, our evolution, our coevolution with wolf. We'd like to pull in the story from the perspective of Native people. Our Ojibwe elders talked a lot with us about our relationship with wolf and what that meant to them. And there's a particular story we'd like to share. It's a story I learned first from an old friend of mine, Bill Hurl, from back in the hippie days, back in the 60s. You all remember that, of course. And at that time, I did a lot of hitchhiking around the country. I was looking for native elders who were still embracing some of their old ways. I wanted to learn how they lived in balance with the earth. I wanted to learn how to be in closer relationship with the animals. And they talked a lot about our ancestral relationship with wolf. And I would say, encouraged me to go and ask wolf because they said that's what their elders told them. Go and ask wolf. That's where we learned. So I came back from one of my hitchhiking trips, and I was frustrated because I had to come back to my old job and my relationship at the time, which was not going very well either. And he told me a story, and it's a story about an Athabascan boy who learned and how he learned how to hunt. And this is a metaphor for our relationship with wolf. And the story meant so much to me that I carry it to this day, and I've shared it with many people. And we happen to have a traditional storyteller with us today who would like to share that story with us. And that storyteller is my dearly beloved right here.
Thank you. Wonderful, you all. Thank you for your presence. And in this story, there you will hear a sound that is perhaps not so familiar, and it comes from the family of the Algonquin people,
in the branch of the Ojibwe. And in their story about how man and wolf ran around the earth together, they were the first people that had this association. And they ran and they met people and they wanted to know all the relations, the leafed, the four-legged, the winged, the finned, the mineral. They were all family. And they would go and they say, Anin, Shomis, Anin Ejeayayan Bin. How are you? Who are you? And they would listen. And this is the biggest part of this, of our lives, of our purpose for being here, is to really listen, because then we can hear what is happening in the present moment. And these relations spoke their names to Ma'ingan, the wolf, and the Anishinaabe man. And they gathered these sounds. So the Ojibwe people don't call their language, they call it their sound. And it's based on the sound that they heard from the relations. And so some of these sounds, like Eshkebut, the raw meat eaters, and these are the Eskimos. So they are quite renowned for their swift kayaks, their igloos, and their uncanny ways of hunting the seals, the askik. But less known would be their cousins, the Adikanesi, the caribou people, the caribou hunters, Adikanesi. Let's see if you can say it. Just feel that sound in your tongue. Adikanesi.
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 The caribou hunters. And Adik is the caribou. And they have quite different life way from the Eskimos. They live inland and they hunt Adik. And they have a deep relationship with these four-leggeds. Because in the tundra, the herbs cannot be eaten by the Adikanesi, but they are relished by Adik, who turn it into the flesh, nourishing flesh that the Adikanesi can then eat. And in return, the Adikanesi challenge Adik in the hunt. Only the swiftest and the most clever can survive. And then they pass their trade to the next generations. So pass on swiftness, their intelligence, their knowing where to go and how to survive. Adik tribe. If it wasn't for the Adikanesi hunting them, they would soon overpopulate the tundra and they would strip all the greenery. We've seen that happen in areas where wolf has been exterminated and the deer just take over, and pretty soon they are starving because they don't have a way to continue flourishing. So when the Adikanesi are successful in their hunt, thanks are given to the spirit of Adik, of the caribou, the life force that is common to all Adik. Because a finger is nothing without the hand. And so it is with an individual Adik. As the hand gives each finger life and purpose, so Adik spirit gives life and purpose to each caribou. And when one of them dies, that spirit continues and gives life and purpose. And her body feeds all the relations. And so, in that way, her spirit continues on to live. So, the story we'd like to share with you today is of an almost grown man of the Adikanesi. His name was Dewe-Igan's little drum. Dewe-Igan's. And that refers to the beating of the heart, the first sound we hear. And this story is about how Dewe-Igans found his way into adulthood. He had recently quested for his life dream, and he was anxious to begin living it. His dream told him that he was to become a hunter and bring the gifts of the caribou of Adik, the meat, the bone, the sinew, and the pelt, because the people used every part and honored that life in that way. So serving his people in this way was to give him a deep sense of fulfillment. However, when he returned from his quest, he thought to himself, I don't even know how to begin. I've been hunting for Binet, the grouse, and for Wabos, the hares. And that's one thing. But venturing far out on the tundra and tracking the mighty herds of Adik is quite another. I know that part of becoming a man is finding my own way along my given path. And yet I feel lost already before I begin. So Dewein made a small fire and he stared into it. Most of the day passed. And just as father son was about to bed down in the horizon, Dewey jumped up and said, I've got it! My uncle Kimudapi, which means laughs inside. My uncle Kimudi, he is the greatest hunter of the Adikanesi. I will go to him and learn the way of the hunt. Dewey spoke of his uncle with some pride and not too much exaggeration, as Gemudi was really a good hunter. He had a Dick medicine and was the eldest, most experienced hunter of his clan. He consistently provided for his people. He would be sure to help feed and clothe those in need. I will make a petition pouch for my uncle out of this lush fur from Wabos. He empowered his pouch by decorating it with the teeth from Adik, because it is with the power of these teeth that Adik turns the bitter lichen into sweet meat and warm furs. He also attached several of Adik's sun-dried scat, because that was Adik's gift of nourishment to the Earth Mother, so that she could continue feeding her children. And lastly, he made a latch from a piece of Adik rib that had been used as a hide-tying tool. When the wake held the pouch, he could close his eyes and feel the power. He could not wait to present it. So he immediately went out to look for his uncle. Gemut had wandered out alone on the tundra, which he often did just before going on hunt. When a dick called him, a far-seeing look would come into his eyes, and his people would know that he wished to be alone to prepare himself for the hunt. This time, the We'eg felt that same calling, so he thought it would be all right to join his uncle. Without looking back, his uncle said, "I have been waiting for you, the We'eg." "However did you know someone was coming to see you?" asked the We'eg. "It's not me who knows. It is me who listens to those who do know." "Uncle, do not understand." "Perhaps your mind does not, and yet your heart does. Come sit with me." The boy man sat beside the aged hunter on a mossy rise overlooking the vast sweep of moss and heather and pondlets that make up the green seasoned tundra. "Honored uncle," began the Wake, "this boy, who strives to be a man, believes that he has been given his life dream. He respectfully comes to you for guidance." As he spoke, he reverently, and with a bit of shyness, handed his uncle the petition pouch. This person was told that a dick wishes him to help keep her kind strong, and he feels this passion to bring a dick medicine to his people. Nothing would please him more than to dedicate his life to a dick and a dickanacey. He is so filled with his dream that he feels about to burst, because he does not have the skills to serve in the way that he is called. Now he sits humbly before you, asking if you would accept him as an apprentice. This man hears the words of your heart. How might he serve in the walking of your life path? Uncle, ever since I could first walk, I have followed in your footsteps. When you would take your man bow out on the tundra to hunt a dick, I would take my child bow and stalk the dick that my fanciful eyes saw lurk around the camp. I would hunt for wabos, the hares, and benay. When you came home with the gifts of a dick, I felt both the joy of the camp in receiving your gifts and the joy of your heart. I would bring in berries and greens, or perhaps a wabos, a hare. They were my dick. So like you, I also felt the joy of providing for our people. As I grew older, I came to notice that faraway look that danced in your eyes when you prepared for the hunt. It caused me to realize that there was far more to hunting than knowing how to stalk and shoot a bow. Uncle, it is that I wish to learn. Gemud listened with quiet pride, as few children were so perceptive. He looked off over the rolling hills as he recalled bringing his own petition to a great hunter in the time of his youth. After a while, he spoke. However, the voice was not his. The words came from a hunter whose bones did long lie on the tundra, with those of his sister Adik. The silver hare, who sits beside you, is honored as a skilled and cunning hunter. However, you must know that it is Adik spirit who deserves the honor, for it is she who presents those of her kind before me, and it is Maingan, the wolf, who should have the credit for skill and cunning. I am merely a clever imitator, a shadow of Maingan, the real hunter. You have brought your petition pouch to me because you have seen me hunt. It has not yet been possible for you to see the hunter within me, the hunter whose spirit guides me. I will fast on your petition, my brother's child. And if I am given the sign that I am intended to accept it, I will do so with honor on behalf of Adik and our people. And then I will guide you to Maingan, as he was the first hunter for our people. And it was he who has taught us the ways of the hunt ever since that long ago time of the first Adikanesi hunter. This, as was done for me and for all of those of our calling who have walked before us. My heart embraces your words, which touch me so deeply. At the same time, there were other voices distracting me, and yet they were echoing your exact words. Soon, I realized that I was hearing your uncle and all the wise hunters before him, going all the way back when the first boy man petitioned the first Adikanesi hunter. Gemud smiled, knowing that when his bones lie mingled with the bones of Adik and Maingan out on the mother tundra, Adik would remain strong and his people would be provided for.
Oh. Miigwech, thank you, dear storyteller. This story has traveled with me for, 50 years now. And when I wonder how I am connected in a bigger sense, I draw this story forth and I listen to it. I listen to it being told to myself, and I embrace the spirit of the story. And I realize that I am nothing unto myself. I am all about relationship. And these ancestral memories come back of my relationship with the earth and my relationship with Wolf, my ancestors' relationship with Wolf, and I feel at peace again. I realize that there's a bigger rhythm to life that goes far beyond the what I get caught up in my daily life. Those events come and go. There's something there. There's something of substance, something that gives meaning to my existence. And this story captures that for me. If any of you have any thoughts or feelings you'd like to share that this story brought up, or that are connected with your relationship with Wolf, just raise your hand. We'd like this to be as participatory as you'd like. Anything you'd like to share, you're welcome to. Or if you have a question, if there's something we can further explain, that would be great too. Anybody have something? Okay, we have lots of stories. We're just going to go on with stories then. Whenever you have something you'd like to share, just please speak up. It would be great. I'd like to talk a little bit about my story of how my relationship with Wolf started, my physical relationship. When I was in my early 20s, I had a music store, a record store, and I knew a lot of my customers personally, and they knew my dream, which was to move up north into the North Woods and live indigenously again, live simply, and recreate my relationship with the mother, and be gathering my own food, hunting, foraging, fishing, picking berries, and they knew about my spirit relationship with Wolf, and how Wolf was my inspiration, my guide. And one morning, one of the customers I knew very well came in, and he said, Tamarack, I was just up north camping for the weekend, and I stopped at one of these little roadside zoos. Back then, there were a lot of places where up north in the tourist area, the North Woods, the Lake Country in northern Wisconsin, there were these little gift shops where you could pull off, and the kids could get some soda pop and popcorn, and they oftentimes had a little mini zoo. They had a few animals in cages. You know, the kids just loved to see the bears, the foxes, and the raccoons. And they might have a big snapping turtle in a cage and some beaver. It was a big attraction for the kids, and it was an attraction for me and my two brothers when we were kids going up north too. And he came back and he said he stopped at one of these little roadside zoos, and there was a pair of wolves, and they had a pair of wolves in a cage. And he told me uh, how pitiful this pair of wolves looked, and he said that the male was just pacing back and forth and back and forth in front of the cage. It was a small cage, just about 8 by 8 feet, which is the minimum, that a legal requirement to keep a pair of captive wolves back then. And this wolf had a path worn in the front of the cage just from pacing back and forth and back and forth. It's just worn down to mud, and he was very, very anxious and nervous and stressed, according to my friend. He said that the female was there and she was just laying there panting, and her teats were full of milk, and she looked in pain. They were so full, they were ready to burst. And so my friend asked the man who owned the establishment what was happening here, and he said, well, the they just had pups, and I took the pups away from them so that they wouldn't be wild, so that they would be imprinted on people. And the cage is too small anyway to have 4 pups in there with the adults. And so my friend, he came back and he came in the store right away the next morning, and he said, he gave me this story. And I right away asked one of my staff to take over, and I hopped in my Volkswagen Beetle, nice red one, by the way, it's a beautiful little Beetle. And I took off to go up north to see these wolves. And the place was called the Trout Ranch. He had some trout ponds too. Back then, you could pay a certain amount of money to fish in these trout ponds that some people had, and the kids would like catching some trout, some fish. And you went in to see the animals through the gift shop. You had to go into the front door of the gift shop, and that's how they made their money. They were selling little curios and such, Northwoods themed things, and cards and little statues and such. And I asked if I could go in and see the animals, and he said yes. And I went there, and my heart just sank when I saw this pair of wolves. And I asked about the pups, where they were, and he said, "Oh, we took them in the house. We're taking care of them in the house." And I asked what's going to happen to them, and he said, "Well, I don't know. We're going on vacation this weekend. We don't have anywhere to go with the pups. We don't know what we're going to do with them." So I asked if I could see them, and he said, "Yes, just wait a minute. I'll get someone to watch the front desk here." And he took me into the house, and he took me into the bathroom. And I wondered, well, this is strange. I didn't ask to go to the bathroom. Why is he taking me into the bathroom? And he walked me over to the bathtub, and I noticed his two daughters were right behind him. They were maybe 8 and 10 years of age, and he walked me over to the bathtub, and I looked in, and there were 4 wolf pups. They were about 11 days of age. Their eyes were not open yet. Their eyes opened about 12 to 15 days of age. Their eyes weren't open yet. Just these beautiful little fur balls. And the males had blue ribbons tied around their necks, and the females had pink ribbons tied around their necks. And the girls were taking care of them. They were bottle feeding them, and they were their little pups, and they were just giving them a lot of love, which was beautiful. And I asked again, what are you going to do with these wolves? And again, he said, I don't know. I'd like to sell them and or something. And I asked how much you selling them for? And he said, well, wolf pups are pretty rare. They go for a lot of money. I'm asking $200 a piece for them. And that was a lot of money back then. And without thinking, I just said, will you take $400 for the 4? And he said yes right away. Obviously, he was just glad to have a home for them. And so the little girls went and got a cardboard box for me, and they lined the cardboard box with some soft rags. And they gave me the bottles and the formula they were using. And they kissed their little puppies goodbye. And I brought the pups home with me. And I became their mother. And when they opened their eyes in a few days, they attached to me right away. They imprinted on me. and I was their mother, I was their father, I was their pack leader, and that changed as they grew. And I stepped back and allowed them to form their own family, their own relationship. And they each took different roles. They each had a different archetype. There are three archetypes. Some of you might know this. Three archetypal roles that we all play in life. All social animals do. There are nurturers, there are guardians, and there are voices. And I could see at that young age that each of them had a different role that they were playing. And I got a permit from the Department of Natural Resources to harbor wolves, and I had a few acres of land, so I fenced in a large area for them. There's no way I was going to keep them in a pen. My goal was to help reintroduce wolves into the wilds. It turned out that these four pups were the pups from the last pair of wild wolves that was trapped in Wisconsin. The last pair, the last wild wolves. And they were trapped by the Walt Disney organization. There was a program, you all know about the Disney organization and Pixar and all the things that they do with movies and films and such, and Disneyland and Disney World. It's all the same organization. And back then, there was a program on television called Disneyland, and they had a lot of nature shows on the program every Sunday night for an hour. Disneyland was on, and I watched it all the time because of the nature programs they had. And they made a movie called Lobo, which was the story of a lone wolf, a wolf who left his family and went out to find his own way in life. And the movie was one of these last wolves who was trapped. And after the Disney organization was done with the pair, they passed the pair off to another program that did nature shows, which was called Wild Kingdom. The Mutual of Omaha insurance company sponsored this program called Wild Kingdom, and every Sunday there was an hour-long program on some aspect of nature. And they did a segment on a pair of wolves raising pups in the wilds, and they presented it as they're filming these wolves in the wilds. Actually, they had the pair of wolves was this pair in an enclosure, and after they were done with the wolves, they didn't know what to do with them, and there was this roadside zoo, and they asked them if they would like the pair of wolves, and that's where they ended up. And coming back to the story, I had the pups, and I had a friend who went there later, and he bought the old pair from them, the adult pair. So they were all rescued. And I, at the time, I purchased a square mile of land up in the North Country, and my plan was to fence in a 40-acre tract, a large tract of land, so that this family of wolves, this growing family, could raise their own pups in the enclosure, and I would gradually release them into the wilds and get them used to hunting so that they could rewild themselves, and we'd have wolves in the North Woods again. And I was going to do this hopefully with the support of the Department of Natural Resources and other interested individuals. So naive as I was going for publicity to let people know what my plans were so that I could get some support. And there was a television station that a regional television station. I think it was the network, and I asked if they'd like to do a story on wolves and my dream for reintroducing them into the wilds. And oh, they jumped on it right away. So they sent a film crew out. They interviewed me. They filmed the wolves, and the next day there was an endless line of vehicles driving down our lonely country road, looking to get a sight of the wolves. The wolves were a sensation, uh, and uh, and that was beautiful. I thought, wow, there's all this interest, all this curiosity, and the flip side of that was that the next time I went up north to spend some time on this wilderness land I purchased for the wolf reintroduction project, I stopped at the little restaurant right at the turnoff of the road, and the waitress came by, and she said, "Tamarack, I've got some news for you. There's a lot of talk up here about you bringing the wolves up. They saw their television program, and they are going to poison those wolves if you bring them up. They're afraid that those wolves are going to get out and kill their livestock and attack their children. This is not a good place for you or your wolves." And that was my rude awakening to the anti-wolf. And it's hard for me to continue with this story because I usually break into tears. The my wolf family did not have a happy ending, but we'll leave that for another time. What I'd like to share is some of my time with the wolves. I remember one time that they're adults now. They're 2 and 3 years of age, and they're having pups of their own. I stepped back, and I was adopted into their family. I was one thing with natural native animals and native people is that there's not this separation between humans and then the animals. To native people, the wolves are the wolf people, and the deer are the deer people, and the rabbits are the rabbit people. They're all people, and they're all relatives. They're all brothers and sisters in the group of relations. And that's why this is called Brother Wolf Stories. And that's what all the native people all over the Northern Hemisphere, here and in Eurasia, refer to wolf as Brother Wolf, Sister Wolf. There's no distinction.
Recording in progress.
So when I'll give you an example. I came home from work one evening. My land where I was living was 3 or 4 miles out of town, and I was haggard. I wasn't getting along very well with my employees. I had some trouble with a couple of them, and I was having tax issues, and I had some issues with the bank over a loan, and I wasn't getting along in my relationship with my wife at the time. There was tension there, and I just wanted to leave it all behind. So I came home, I got out of my car, and I opened the gate to go in and spend some time with my wolf family. And they were truly my family. This was the first time I felt like I belonged in family. I was raised in a very dysfunctional family. My father was an emotionally distant alcoholic, and my mother, she took good care of us 3 boys, but she was frantic with stress, having to deal with my dad, and she wasn't always present for us in the ways that a mother would love to be present. It wasn't her fault. She did the best she could. But we didn't have this close, caring, trusting family relationship. And I did with this wolf family. They accepted me for who and how I was, and it felt really good. And so I put on a happy face, and I just wanted to go in and just feel feel uh, feel relieved and just let the stress release and just just be with my own kin. And so I went dancing in, and usually we're jumping on each other and rubbing our bodies together and rolling around in the ground and wrestling and licking each other's faces. But it didn't happen. They saw right through me. They were relating to the real me, the me as I was feeling. They just sat there and they looked at me. And they were extending this empathy to me, just this openness to just be with them, to just allow those feelings to flow. And I was so overwhelmed that all I could do was give a gift of tears. They came up and they licked my face. It felt so good. This true kinship, this truth speaking, this emotional connection, this empathy, this being real. This is the way I wanted to be with people, with my own kind, with humans. And I very seldom experienced it, but with them, there it was. And this, I learned so much from these wolves about what relationship is all about. And that's why I can be here with my mate Lety today. When I was younger, I was married 4 times. I just couldn't make a relationship work. I didn't know how to be with someone, truly be with somebody. I learned from Wolf. And this is a big part of my life journey. This is what I want to bring forth for others, to help others to have this intrinsic connection with Wolf. Because it's already there, it's imprinted in our DNA. We have this deep ancestral relationship with Wolf. That's why nearly everybody has some feelings about wolves. They're either going to love them or hate them. There's very few neutral feelings, and that is because of this deep intrinsic connection. And love and hate are the same core emotion, believe it or not. I can't hate somebody unless I once loved them. It's the same core emotion. So I remember my son once, he was really frustrated with me. And he came up with me and he said, "I hate you, Dad." And I know what he meant. I know he didn't really mean he hated me. He had these deep feelings for me that he wasn't able to express in a way that I could be with him. So this is what we'd like to help bring forth in this sharing together right now.
Yeah, and just to highlight again, that this story that you just shared is what led to where we are today as an organization in the 50th anniversary. The sharings and through that you're doing all over the world. So we are excited to have you here as part of our anniversary celebration, and this sharing is one in the series of events that we're doing to celebrate that. So we'd like to invite you, if you have some questions about what's been shared so far, this is a great time to explore further. Joe.
Yes, hi there. Let's say one was to live in a place and they had some land and they wanted to bring some wolves in. Let's say an area, I'm just going to pull out of the air, let's say South Dakota, a rather conservative area, farm-centric, without wolf at present. But it is protected status, at least on the federal level. What's the possibilities today, do you think, of bringing in wolf to an area such as that, or another area that's kind of like that? Not necessarily wolf friendly, wolf naive, I would say. A lot of farms, a lot of skepticism. But yeah, possibilities of bringing that in.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. The question of reintroduction, it's happening right now. Give a little grounding first. The Mexican wolf is being reintroduced in Arizona and New Mexico. and they were nearly exterminated just 30 years ago or so. And the last the last Mexican wolves were trapped, and they were the subspecies was kept alive in captivity, and they're being successfully released now. And wolves are right now being released in Colorado, and Yellowstone has wolves again. The most famous releases of reintroduction of wolves has happened in Yellowstone, because Yellowstone Park is the most popular national park in the world. There are people from all over the world coming to Yellowstone to see the wolves. And they're easy to see there because there's a lot of rolling open habitat, and you can stop alongside a road, and with the scope you can look out for a mile or 2 miles, and you can see the wolves out there. You can see the wolves hunting, you can see the wolves with their pups. It's a beautiful place to get to know wolves in their natural habitat. And there are wolves again in Glacier National Park up in the Northwest, and in Oregon, and in Northern California. Wolves have moved back into Northern California on their own. But what is needed? Two things are needed. First of all, the habitat. The wheat fields of North Dakota are probably not the best place to reintroduce wolves, because they don't have the habitat to support them. They need a prey base. They need they hunt ungulates basically, which is deer, elk, caribou, bison, buffalo, and there has to be that prey base. And when they have that prey base, that's what they're going to go for. They're not going to be killing cattle or sheep. If there isn't that prey base, yes, they're going to eat. They're going to kill cattle and sheep. So, so first of all, the habitat and the prey base are needed. Secondly, there needs to be tolerance. At least tolerance. People don't have to love wolves or want them back, but they have to tolerate their presence, and that takes education. And that's what I learned. And after what happened with my wolf family, I dedicated my life to education, and that's why we're here right now. That's why the Teaching Drum Outdoor School. That's why Snow Wolf Publishing. That's why the Healing Nature Center. And that's why the Brother Wolf Center. It's just that we have this stereotypical image of wolves, the Little Red Riding Hood stories and the Big Bad Wolf stories, and the Three Little Pigs and stories from our childhood imprinted this medieval concept of the big bad wolf. And then we have werewolves, and this is what a lot of people are carrying. They just assume that wolves are bad and wolves need to be eliminated, eradicated. So we have these two camps right now. We have this old stereotype that people are carrying, not by choice. They inherited it from the culture. And then we have people like us, people who are oftentimes more educated, people who've gone to college, people who are renewing their relationship with nature, and people who are renewing their relationship with wolf.
And people who never lost it.
And people who never lost it, yes. Yes. So our first goal is education. Just letting people know who wolf really is. And there's some people doing some beautiful things. There are some wolf centers across the country, and they do programs in the schools, the elementary schools, and they will bring a wolf along with them right into the classroom, and the kids can see a wolf right in front of them, and they can come up and pet the wolf. And the wolf handler will sometimes get the wolf to howl, and the kids can howl along with the wolf, and they just fall in love with wolf, and their attitudes change right away if they had negative attitudes. They go home and they say, "Mommy, we had a wolf in school today," and this is how it spreads. This is how it spreads. children are young and innocent, and they're open to anything, you know. And this is helping to break down the biases. It's doing wonders. In Wisconsin right now, it's state law that all public schools have a wolf week. The first week in October is Wolf Week, and there are wolf education programs in all of the elementary schools. And this has been going on for 30 years, and it has really changed the attitudes toward wolves. And that's why we have a wolf population in this state again. We have probably 1,500 wolves right now in the North Country. We have a few days ago, we had a pair of wolves coming right down our driveway. We saw the tracks in the morning. They're right here. So it's happening.
Yeah. Something comes to this person about relationship, and all of the traditional stories talk about a time when all the animals, and we humans tend to forget that we're animals too, and all of the animals, two-legged, four-legged, finned, leafed, even the plant people, the mineral people, they're all of these traditional stories talk about times when they were all recognizing each other, speaking the same language, recognizing that they were all organs within an organism. And it feels important to bring that's where we need to return, each one of us, because as long as we feel separate from anything in the natural world, there's going to be a fear. There's always a fear when there is separation. And when there is fear, there is aggressiveness, there's defensiveness. One of my mentors says that defense is the first act of war. And why is that? Why is that? Another native elder from the Odawa people, his name is Wilfred Pelletier, not Leonard Pelletier, but Wilfred Pelletier. And he says that he feels that our current society is based on the enemy concept, and that we fight against everything. We fight against poverty. We fight against hunger. We fight against injustice. And we even fight for peace. And then he says, like, what would happen if we eliminate the enemy, if suddenly everything in our lives is for our own growth, for our own blossoming, for our own recognizing, remembering that we are organs within a greater organism, and that all the organs are important for the healthy functioning of the organism. Who do we fight against if there are no enemies? And as this person has taken that question really deeply, she has recognized how many enemies she makes. Oh, I'm hungry. So hunger is the enemy suddenly. Or, I don't have what I want. And then this aggressiveness, this greed, this hoarding, all of these feelings come up. And so she recognizes that she needs to start there, where she's making enemies, and just noticing where she's making enemies, and start to turn that around. What is the gift in the hunger? What is the gift in not having everything she wants? And as she opens her heart to the gift, a gratitude emerges. And with that gratitude, a different way of perceiving the world. And suddenly there's more friends and allies to be grateful for. And she feels like this is a really important piece in turning around the perception that we have been carrying and that has created the world as we perceive it now.
This is a very important stepping stone to understanding how wolf became a nemesis, a threat, an enemy. When our ancestors were hunter-gatherers, wolf was our friend. We were out there hunting with wolf. We helped each other in the hunt. And when we settled down and started domesticating animals, wolf stayed with us. Some of them stayed with us and became our dogs. Some of them remained wild, and they still hunted. And they didn't know the difference between a wild sheep and a domestic sheep. And they killed some of our domestic sheep as well. And all of a sudden, wolf became our enemy. The animal who we evolved along with, the animal we used to hunt with, the animal we raised our children with, the human children and the wolf pups would play together just naturally. And then there was the change. And there's that feeling, there's the enemy concept.
And the thing about that enemy concept is that it doesn't feel good inside of us. When we're surrounded by people that love us and that we love and we get along with, it just feels so liberating. It feels so comfortable. It feels expansive. And then we don't like someone because they said something about us or because they didn't share something or because of some reason. And then there's something inside us begins to stick. And then it doesn't feel expansive anymore. And how do we change that? How do we change that? How do we return to seeing that beloved that is truly there, other than what we're making them out to be? Because they made a mistake, because they showed up without the love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Was there anybody who would like to contribute something to this beautiful sharing? Okay, Rick. And I
Right.
did see you this time. I'm happy to do that. Just a
Yeah,
reminder that the digital hand is gonna make that a guarantee.
right.
Thank you. Yay, that
Yeah.
is.
Those didn't used to be there, but they're there now. So your sharing, Lee, makes me think of what I've heard of as the gifting economy, about which I don't know a whole lot, but it seems to be one of the first economies, the first way that people interacted. And it's always impressed me that the earth has always gifted us everything we have. And so it was the start of this gifting. And we've kept it going amongst ourselves and then gradually moved away from it, as you said, Tamara. Um, and when you were talking about your feelings about yourself, it occurred to me that gifting is something that works within ourselves too. So, we give ourselves a gift of happiness. I don't know. I haven't thought about that too much, but that's my thought.
Mm.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really an important concept. Uh, the gifting economy, the elders have taught us that one of the precepts by which they live is that giving is receiving. If I want something, if I need something, I'm encouraged to give it first. Give what you want. If I want love, I need to be able to give love first. If I'm hungry, How can I help others who are hungry? And this creates an opening for receiving. I might not receive from the person I'm giving to, but I'm creating that opening, and that is going to spread, and something totally unexpected might come back to me with no expectations, as opposed to the economy of scarcity, which is where we come from in our culture. You know, it's all about me. It's all about self-development. You know, I need to secure my piece of the pie. I need to get this. I need to have that. I need to, you know, and so we have a whole insurance industry and a banking industry and all these industries that are taking care of me. And in indigenous cultures, that is not necessary at all because everybody is taking care of me. I don't have to worry about being taken care of, and I'm helping to take care of them.
There was a funny, you know, in the language, of course, the Ojibwe language has evolved along with technology and all of that. But in our wilderness guide program, where people come and live in the woods for a year, and and when there is an abundance of fish, sometimes they'll just fish and fish and fish, and then they can't possibly eat all the fish, you know. So when they're exploring what is the best way of preserving, of food preservation, and when it comes to fish, they realized it's leaving the fish in the lake, you know, where they're doing very well and they don't spoil, and you know. But a funny thing that when the freezers came up, you know, in the old days when a moose was killed, the whole community came together. I had the opportunity to be in the flying reserve in Canada when they had the moose hunt. And it was amazing. The whole village would come and they would have this huge grill, and everybody would be helping to butcher the moose, and everybody went home with packages, and you know, they were all eating there too. And but when the freezer came in, the word that they called the freezer was the stingy box, because now they could hold all the meat for themselves, it all there, and they didn't have to share it. And so it was, yes, it was just a kind of an interesting allegory for what they came up with, you know. And it relationships suffered because when they were sharing, of course, everybody's happy, they're neighbors, and they love each other, and they're sharing this vital food. But when the stingy box came along, then it was like, oh no, we got to save it for us, because what if? So that was, yeah.
This has a lot to do with our approach to food. Wolves live by a feast and famine economy. When there's food, when there's a kill, the whole family is there sharing, just like Lety describes, just as the northern Ojibwe people we know do. When a moose comes in from the hunt, and when there's not food, that's okay too. Maybe we go for a day or so without food, and the same with wolves. Wolves will have a feast, that have a beautiful feast and lay around in the sunshine and play. And when they get hungry, they'll go again and hunt. It might be a day or two later. And every meal sharing is a feast. And it's the same with our ancestors and with the native people who still exist, the traditional people. It's either feast or famine. There's no just sitting down for three meals a day. There's no just eating because it's time to eat. It's always getting together with people, sharing stories, getting together around the hearth. Eating is a ritual, it's a celebration. That's the gifting economy.
Yeah, another piece to relationship, you know, that I'm seeing that the majority of the people here probably experienced life without wolves in the habitat that they lived, and wolf coming back to that habitat. And so the active engagement with that change would have occurred in the majority of the people's lives who are here, just looking at the age and where I know they lived. And I think that is also something where we have, that conscious change that we are privileged to have experienced is something where there's a heightened awareness on that particular species because we are directly affected by that change.
Mhm.
But, with the what you shared with the reactions of people with the wolves, that likely wouldn't have been the case if a squirrel came back that hadn't been living there, or a certain type of bird species that may have not been there and have come back, and yet that basically the controversy about this relationship is a benefit to us being consciously engaging with that species, with that neighbor, that ancestor, that kin. We have Rick, do you have something else you want to share, or did you just forget to take your hand down?
I forgot to take my hand down. I'm not sure. Do I click again?
Yeah, you go back down there.
I also see that we have a comment from Dirk that seems really relevant. The fear of wolf seems to be the fear of our own wilderness and the fear of not being able to control it. That's definitely a very poignant statement.
Yeah. I would I would say here that it would be the fear of our own wildness. The werewolf metaphor, here's this person who by day is seemingly a normal person, and then when the full moon comes, there's this transformation, this wildness comes out, this predatory wildness, uncontrollable wildness. We need control in our control of our nature is nature. We're controlling nature. We've become farmers, agriculturalists, industrialists, and where can that wildness come out? Our nature is nature. How do we manifest that?
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Dirk.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And Iris has a hand up.
Well, I was just thinking when you were talking, Makwa, too, that isn't it crazy that in this time where so many of our kin disappear, the wolves, at least here in Germany, they just spread out and get more and more and walk past our homes and make themselves visible. What a great movement, I find.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. And that's a really great introduction to our next story. I'm just wondering if we could take a 5-minute break.
That sounds really good. Let's do a 5-minute break, and then we have our last story to share. Another highlight.
Okay.
Recording stopped.
Okay, everybody, we're getting ready to dive into another story of the evening day.
Recording in progress.
Hmm.
Welcome back, everybody. We welcome back our storyteller from afar.
We'd like to share another story about our future, with Wolf. It's a traditional story, a prophecy. And we heard it from our native neighbors here. When we would go to powwows or ceremonies, there would oftentimes be this story told about the future of Wolf and the future of humans. And the gist of the story is that what happens to Wolf happens to humans, and what happens to humans happens to Wolf. We have that close a kinship, that closer relationship. And our storyteller is graciously going to share this traditional story with us the way we learned it.
Here, I'll invite you again to taste that delicious sound of the Ojibwe language. The name for our relative here is Ma'ingan. Ma'ingan.
Ma'ingan.
Just feel it. It's like Ma'ingan. Ma'ingan.
Ma'ingan. Mm.
And here, our protagonist is Gitchinoden, which is a great storm coming. And this morning he woke up and just stretched like Ma'ingan stretches. It's such a good day to start a long journey. Where his thoughts, as he saw the sun rising, shook off, and his silver black coat shone in the morning sun as though it were frosted with mist, so that everyone would know that he was a chief of the Ma'ingan people. He walked with his hackles raised and held his tail high, anxious to begin his travels. Gitchinoden immediately set out on the narrow trail that wove through a grove of stately wigwasimitik, the grandfather tree, the birch. Beside the trail, there was a brook that was flowing and humming through the rushes and chortled over the mossy rocks. Even though Gitchinoden felt the heaviness of the grave journey that he was undertaking, he was uplifted by the unspeakable beauty that surrounded him. I sense someone coming up the trail toward me, he thought. Anin, Awama. Greetings, my sister, he said, as he stepped to the side so that the woman could pass. This person is called Gitchinoden, and he is on a journey that will take him far away to an unknown land. His heart is warmed as he travels through this beautiful land where you live. This woman is honored to know you, Kichinode. Her name is Ishebag, New Leaf. She comes to the stream to fetch hides from the water, where she placed them last night to soften them for tanning. She welcomes you to this land. We seldom have the gift of Ma'ingan among us. What gives us the honor this day? I am now the last of my kind. Without my sisters and brothers to run with through the forest and feast on sweet venison, I am no longer Ma'ingan. The spirit of our kind dwells not separately in each of us, but in all of us as one. So I am nothing unto myself. I am but a single pitiful person. I can neither carry nor honor the spirit of Ma'ingan alone. So it is my day to die. How can that be? That is hard for me to believe. As I heard you chanting your song from far up the trail, and it echoed without end like the chorus of spring birds. As I left my camp and started off the trail, your song inspired me with the glory of the wind and the river of your spirit. I know that your chanting was welcomed by all the relations this morning, the winged and the legged and finned and rooted, because we all joined with you in a great chorus celebrating Bimadisuwin, the circle of life. Your song is vital to that spirit. And having said that, Ishibag felt more relaxed and was able to pause and reflect. So she added these words. And you, Brother Ma'inga, you stand before this woman tall and strong, and your eyes burn with the fire of life. Had you not spoken of it, I could not imagine this to be your last day. That it is my last day is not important. It is the last day of my Ingan. By walking this forest one last time and chanting our song as though this day were our first, I am honoring the time my kind has been given here on the mother's lush bosom. I do this now because for us, there is no tomorrow. The land from which I come has been raped, and all of my kin have been killed. I know now that I have been spared only for this moment, that I might bring this message to the one who has been chosen to receive it. And it's you. This person who now stands before her respectfully asks if she will listen and then carry these words to all of the Anishinaabe, the two-legged humans. my life will then be complete. This person's heart is heavy because it bears the sadness of all relations. And at the same time, she hears your request and would consider it an honor to do as you ask. A faraway look came over Kichinoren's eyes. Ma'ingan and the Anishinaabe were the first of the relations to walk on the bosom of Aki, our Mother Earth. We camped and we hunted together. We feasted and we told stories together. And that changed when the other relations came to live here with us. At the great welcoming ceremony we held in their honor, Amu, the bumblebee, came forward to speak for them. And this is what she said. It is intended that you, the Anishinaabe and Ma'ingan, now begin keeping separate camps. You have different paths to walk. At the same time, you are to remain sisters and brothers, helping and looking out for each other and learning from each other's examples. As goes the fate and fortune of one of you, so goes the fate and fortune of the other. Aho! Ooh. The prophecy of Amu now comes to pass. Ma'ingan has met his fate, and he has come to warn you of yours. Noble brother, your words burn like fiery coals upon my chest. Without you, we will suffer. We are given meat and clothing by the Wawashkeshi people, the deer people, and you are their Minisino, their guardian warrior. You keep them healthy by taking their sick and their old. Since the time of our first ancestors, you, the great hunter, have trained us in the ways of the hunt. We will be drowned in a deep sadness when your shadow no longer crosses our trail. Because I do not wish that upon my people, I will not believe that my Ingan has met his final fate. You, a noble chief of the Ma'ingan, still stand here before me, and your kin, the Anishinaabe, will stand with you, for we are Minisino, we are guardian warriors. And at the same time, this person wishes to respect your desire to leave your loneliness. So we take from you any selfish wish that we may have to keep you here. And yet, if we were to let you go, we would also be giving up on our kind, because our fates are one. We cannot do that because it is not the medicinal way. For that reason, this person respectfully asks that you would honor the Anishinaabe with one last request. That you would allow us to carry your song, for it is the song of my Ingan. And if it survives, the spirit of my Ingan will live on. We, the Anishinaabe, are with you as are the stars with the night. We will bring honor to the Minnesota. We will dedicate our lives and the lives of our children to the 7th generation, to healing the greed that so savagely plunders our beloved Mother Earth. Endless camps of tree people shall again cover the hillsides, and the hooved and the winged and uncountable numbers will come back to blanket the plains and blacken the skies. And then, my lonely brother, your kind may again dwell among us. This person is deeply touched by your words. They speak the love of your kind for all of life. You are truly a sister of my Ingan. And still, it seems there is no way for the song of my Ingan to survive. I'm afraid that in spite of your noble intent, we are destined to leave the Madisawin, the hoop of life, for all time. And again, a deep sadness overtook Gitchinoden. He bowed his head, and his once lofty tail hung limp. All of a sudden, he looked very old. The woman Minisino looked caringly upon her brother, and at the time she did not soften in the tradition of her kind. She presented my Ingan with a petition pouch symbolically decorated with gag quills, the porcupine. She gave him the pouch with these words: since my Ingan and Anishinaabe have parted ways, we have had no song, and then the Anishinaabe was the collective heartbeat which we carried with our drum, our Dewe'igan, and the song of my Ingan was our collective chant. It is a lonely rhythm that now rises from our drum, and our hearts have cried because there has been no voice to chant in thanksgiving. This person respectfully asks again if you would entrust us with the honor of chanting it to the 4 sky realms and keeping Wawashkeshi strong, the dear people, just as you have. In this way, balance will be maintained among the relations and will continue to dwell in the lodge of your most beautiful song's blessings. The lone Ma'inga walked down to the stream where he stood on the bank and looked out over the water. A long time passed. And when he came back, he said in a clear voice, honored sister. You speak from a place of wisdom that eclipses my narrow truth. On behalf of my Ingan spirit, this person wishes you to know that we would be honored to have you carry the song of Maingan. At that, he raised his head, and his eyes beamed as they once did when he ran blissfully with his clan. In the beginning, he continued, your kind and mine walked together. I see now that there may truly be a day when we come back together to drum and chant and hunt. Courageous Anishinaabe, you have served my journey, our journey. My day and the day of Maingan is now complete. When all of the Anishinaabe chant your song in ceremony, you will know that it is safe to return. My Minisino spirit now hungers to begin restoring the balance so that we might chant you back into being. This woman says farewell, dear brother. However, it is only farewell for now. Soon we will be running together like the wind and stalking Wawashkeshi as in the days of old. Gichinorin, on behalf of his kind, and Ishibag, on behalf of her kind, drummed and chanted together one last time. Then they parted, each to fulfill their destinies. And so we part with hearts open, knowing that it is always a continuation with open hearts to call back the beauty way, the gifting way, with each step, with each thought, because our thoughts become things.
It's all about relationship. Feed the relationship, heart to heart.
Gigawabaman, dear clan.
Gigawabaman.
We look forward to seeing you to our next presentation about the secret language of wolves and dogs next weekend on Saturday.